Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Can we get serious now?
One thing that did happen during the 60s was some music of an unusual or experimental nature did get recorded and did get released. Now look at who the executives were in those companies at those times. Not hip young guys. These were cigar-chomping old guys who looked at the product that came and said, I don't know. Who knows what it is? Record it, stick it out. If it sells, all right. We were better off with those guys than we are now with the supposedly hip young executives who are making the decisions of what people should see and hear in the marketplace.
Success in the music business begins with a dream, a vision. This podcast will give you, the listener, the insight and tools to turn that vision into a reality. Meet the industry professionals who work day by day behind the scenes, helping to make those dreams come true. Welcome to the business side of music.
In the studio with us today here in Nashville, Tennessee, Nancy Deckent is joining us. She is the general manager and partner of Nashville Cool Publishing.
Yes.
Which is a company that we're going to talk about a little bit, hopefully. Mm-hmm. She's also a songwriter and a tech entrepreneur. As a songwriter, she won first place in the Indie International Songwriters Competition with the song We Are the Stars, co-written with Anelda Spence.
Yes.
As an independent publisher, she's helped advance the careers of songwriters and successfully built song plugging practices, which is cool. Nancy is the founder and CEO of Discover Sooner, which we're going to talk about that company today. The company connects songwriters to publishers, which is something we all need. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much, Bob. Great to be here.
Before we started the show today, we actually, hey, when did you get to Nashville? Well, I got to Nashville. How did you get to Nashville, and why? Why'd you come to Nashville?
Well, that's where we all start when we have a conversation with other people we meet in Nashville.
Yeah.
So I was in bands for 10 years and did like Death Cab for Cutie, wrote our own songs and things like that, and met up with NSAI. And became the coordinator of the Pittsburgh group up there.
Is that where you were from originally?
Oh, yeah, I was from Pittsburgh,
yeah.
Right? And, well, born in Youngstown, Ohio, and then moved on over to Pittsburgh. And so I was the coordinator there, and every year they would have us come down to Nashville to get training, and it was, it was the most beautiful thing. You come to Nashville, and all of a sudden, hey, writing songs is easier. I got better ideas. I got better melodies. And then I'd go back to Pittsburgh and it would be like crickets. And I was like, then I'd come back to Nashville for another event with NSAI. And this would repeat out. And I was like, Nashville is great for creativity. And finally, I just got to this point where my own songwriting was developing enough. I was like to my husband, like, honey, let's go to Nashville. And he's like, well, no, not yet. Why don't you go to Nashville and come back and go back and forth for a while?
Yeah.
And so that's what I did. And in 2013, I started living here every other month for a year and a half. And then I couldn't stand it anymore. I was like, I need to be in Nashville. And he was with me, and he said, okay, let's do it. So that's how I got to Nashville, and right away just writing songs. But as soon as I made a real commitment to be here, something magical happened to me. And, so you might know there's an angel who rides with you in the car, and every once in a while they speak to you. Mm-hmm. And on my first day in Nashville as a condo owner and committed to being in Nashville, I'd been here writing for a year and a half, and I got this saying in my head, and it said, just like you moved in and there's lots of room in your closet, there's room for expansion. And I was like, what? What do you mean expansion? Who is talking to me right now? I just got this crazy magical thought. And then I arrived at the co-write where I was going, and the person I was writing with said, hey, I want to go into business, and I want to go into business with you. Why don't we be song pluggers and form a publishing company? And I was like, that's a great idea. Let's do that. So in that moment, really, my publishing company was born, and I've been doing song plugging on some level ever since then. So,
first of all, define song plugging, because a lot of people who listen to the show don't necessarily know what that is. And I preface that by saying, because when you talk about Nashville, Nashville is unlike so many other cities, because it really, to me, I would think it is the songwriting capital of the world. I mean, there are so many amazing songwriters there, many who haven't been discovered yet. But song plugging,
what is it?
What is it? Yeah.
Okay. Well, there's two parts of publishing. There's the creative side, which they call it the creative side, but it's like going out and finding great talent and helping that talent find great songs and or great writers to write with. And that's what you do on the creative end of being a publisher. You get your writers into the best rooms that you can get them and then you take the songs that they've made, you demo those songs, and you have relationships. You build your relationships with people in town, like the major labels, A&R, people at the record labels, the producers, the managers, and the artists themselves. So when you have a great song, then you can pitch the song, and that's what a song plugger does. Now, the other side of publishing is the administration of the song. So say you get the song pitched out there to the world, and a major label artist or any artist wants to license that song and record that song and then get that song out into the world, right? Then you have to create a license. You have to have a license, a mechanical license, to allow the person who wants to sing your song the ability to, license your song like you license software. So the admin portion of publishing is that document that says, okay, you artist A, you have the right to record this song, and we, the songwriters and the publishers on this end, are going to give you that license. So song plugging is about getting your song to the artist, and then admin is about giving people the legal right to use your song.
So let me ask this question. The songwriter, can they also be the publisher?
Yeah. Actually, every songwriter is a publisher. Like, imagine that you have a song and it's like a pie and it's divided in two. There's the writer share of it, and then there's the publisher share of it. They kind of go 50-50 on this, generally, let's say. And so every songwriter is a publisher until they assign that publishing to someone else. And no one is ever in a position where they have to assign their publishing to someone else. But we often assign our publishing to someone else when you have a big publisher who can get your song farther around than you yourself can get it out there. Like Warner Chappell can get a song to John Legend because John Legend is signed to them. Nancy over here in Nashville doesn't know John Legend and doesn't know people on John Legend's team. So it's going to be a lot harder for me to get that song there. Make sense?
Yeah, it does. So the publisher in itself, outside of the artist, really can open more doors.
Yes.
But with that being said,
yes,
not every songwriter is necessarily going to get a publishing deal, at least right off in the beginning.
Well, usually you don't.
Yeah. Is it tough to get that foot in the door?
Well, it's really hard.
Yeah.
Well, okay, let's say, there's very large publishing companies and there are very small publishing companies. I've always had a very small publishing company with the aim to grow that publishing company.
Because not everybody, as you as a new songwriter coming into town, and you've got this you've written a dozen songs, and they're all hits in my head. Why are the hits? Because mom and dad tell me they're hits.
That's right. You know it, Bob.
Or my Aunt Alice or my Grandma Rose. They all said they're hits.
Okay.
And I want a publishing deal.
Well, the fact of the matter is that some writers come to town and they are great writers day one, but they probably don't know how we do the business here. And but the majority of us start, and we think we're great at home back in Pittsburgh. They've won every award in Pittsburgh. Then we come to Nashville, and this is the songwriting capital of the world.
It's a deep pond.
It's a
really
very deep
is.
pond,
Yeah,
right.
and there's a lot of great talent in that deep pond.
Well, and this is where it takes a great deal of time as a songwriter to build your foundation. Every time you write a song, you're building your foundation a little bit stronger, a little bit more secure. Your first song or your first 100 songs, you are so good. Well, by the time you get to 1,000 songs you've written, you're much better.
We hope so, at least.
That's right.
Yeah.
And also the co-writing process here in town helps writers go from being maybe a baby writer to a much better writer much more quickly, because when you co-write, you do get better faster. A lot of times, like just as myself, for an example, when I first started co-writing, I didn't know, I would have a verse and a chorus, and I had no idea where the second verse went. But I was in the room with people who did know where the second verse went. And very quickly, you learn from your co-writers what tends to work and what doesn't. So wherever you're weak, they might be strong, and vice versa. So, it just takes time to build those songwriting chops. Let's say you spend 3 years just working with people and writing and finding people that you really connect with and you write the best songs with. Then it becomes, okay, you need your network. You need to not just know songwriters. Now you have to start networking on the business side. Let's say your songs were maybe at 50% when you first came to town, but now your songs are like 85, 90%. Well, now you need to, you need relationships with business people, like with publishers or people who can get you in the door with publishers now that your songs are better.
And you just used a word that is so key to this, and that's relationships, and it's building relationships. One of the things that I learned when I first came to town was not what can people do for me, but what I can do for them. Because it really is, if you got your hand out, everybody's got their hand out. That relationship, is that the same when it comes to publishers? You don't really want to be knocking on doors and going, help me, please, begging or whatever it is.
Oh my gosh, Bob, I get emails every single week from people, and they're very desperate. I have 1,000 songs, and I need someone who can do something with them. God bless. Okay. But that is not going to help you. Really, publishers and music industry professionals really like to feel like they've met people organically. Like maybe they're out at a show and suddenly, you just start meeting people, you're at a show, and you're, like the person that would love to be able to pitch a song. I mean, many times I'd love to be able to pitch a song to that person, but the best thing to do is just get to know them. Stop being in such a hurry.
Yeah.
This is not going to help you. If the moment comes, you'll know it. You'll be able to step into the moment with that publisher much more from out of your experience of knowing them and knowing their life, and you knowing them and them knowing you. No rush. It takes a lot of time to build a relationship, but you just can't just barge right in there and say, hey. Of course, you can always get someone who believes in you who might take you to that publisher.
That relationship has to be built with that person.
Yeah, that's right. That has to happen first. So if you're in a real all-fired hurry, it ain't going to happen.
It ain't going to happen. In the studio with us here today in Nashville, Tennessee, Nancy Daggett.
Hey, this is Dave Ratner from Creative Law Network. Check out my episode on the business side of music.
You're listening to the business side of music.
Hi, everyone. I'm Larry Butler, and I want to send you a free digital copy of my new book, The Singer-Songwriter Rulebook, 101 Ways to Help You Improve Your Chances of Success. That's right. Everything you need to know to launch your career as a singer-songwriter, all based on my 40 years in the live performance arena. And believe me, I've seen it all. In my book, you'll find the 10 things you have to deal with before even thinking about becoming a singer-songwriter performer. You'll also learn about the 5 things every singer-songwriter can do this weekend to make their live show better. 5 things I can guarantee that you are not doing already. Plus, there's tips on songwriting and staging, photo and video shoots, publishing, merch, dozens of other topics, all written for people who don't particularly like to read. And again, it's free. Just go to the Business Side of Music website homepage and look for my book cover. Click on it, and a free digital copy of my book will be yours. I'm Larry Butler, and I approve of this message.
Whether you consider yourself a musician or not, music is all around us, and it affects our everyday lives. Whether it's background music influencing our shopping habits in a store, organ music adding the vibe to a baseball game, or a playlist convincing us to keep going on that last mile of a run. I'm Mindy Peterson, host of the podcast Enhance Life with Music, where we take a holistic look at music's benefits through the lens of science and medicine, entertainment, and business. You can find me and Enhance Life with Music at mpetersonmusic.com/podcast or wherever you get your audio.
You're listening to the business side of music.
Let's talk about your company that you started, I believe, a couple years ago, Discover Sooner.
Yes.
Let's talk about that company. What was the creation of the? Maybe I should say, why was that created?
Yeah. Well, I spent a lot of time as a songwriter and also a song plugger / songwriter. And what I noticed after 5-6 years in Nashville is that it just takes so long for people to get publishing deals. And Is
that the norm?
I think, somewhere between 5 to 10.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
It's not an overnight sensation thing.
It does happen to some people.
Yeah.
But for the most of us, I would say it doesn't happen that way.
You're in the trenches for a while.
Right.
Yeah.
Quite a while. And I thought one day I just got this idea. Wouldn't that be great if there was some place like LinkedIn meets Bumble where songwriters could post their profile and the publishers would be the ones who would reach out? Okay. And that was like on Bumble, it's the girls who have to reach out to the guys.
To the guys.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, this is such a good idea. And I walked it around to some really top publishers and got some advice. Tim Hunzy, and he's over at Big Machine now, and Brad Kennard, he's over at...
Oh, yeah, I know Brad quite well.
Brad,
yeah.
He's so amazing.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, you got to tell Rusty Gaston. And I was like, okay, I'll just call up Rusty Gaston and had a wonderful meeting with Rusty, who then eventually went to Sony. And these guys really helped me shape what I did, how I built the application, the online website, and how I built things I put in it and things I didn't put in it. But they were really like, Nancy, this needs to be for unsigned songwriters. You be the person in town who finds that next level of songwriter who's going to get the publishing deal next. And, I'm like, yeah, what a great idea. And when it's all in your head, you go, yeah, what a great idea. How am I going to find these people? There's plenty of them. Well, it's not as easy as if you build it, they will come. But that was my intention, was to create a space where people could be found and could be found more easily. You go to a writer's night and there's people in the audience. You might not ever hear a song that they had, but this would be a way where a publisher wouldn't have to give away their email or anything. They could go take a nice listen. And if they like somebody, then they could reach out and have that conversation.
Are the songs posted on the site?
Yeah.
Now, is it a sampling or is it an entire song?
It's an entire song.
Yeah.
You can put as many songs up there as you want. We suggest you only put like 5. No one's going to listen to more than 5. And in our site, all songwriters can hear songs and meet all the other songwriters too. But our main focus is helping songwriters find publishers. And we understand that sometimes songwriters don't want to share their best idea with the rest of the songwriting population. So you can make a song private so that it's just going to the business people and they're the ones who can hear it. And then you can share some of your stuff that's more public with the songwriting community. And so that's how we built it, and we started doing that. And, we launched in April 2020 was our launch date. We're like, welcome to the pandemic, right?
Yeah. Which actually maybe wasn't such a bad thing.
Well,
if you had a captive audience all sitting in their houses.
Well, everything changed in that moment for everybody. And if it would have been in February, I would have been out having events, physical events, and over at BMI and inviting people over to BMI and ASCAP and places like that, and just having venues where we had people come over. But because we were all on lockdown, we're like, okay, now what do we do? And Zoom became it, right? Yeah. And then it was like, and I am a member of the Nashville Entrepreneur Center, and they are amazing. And I got Stephen Lynn and Beth Rayback Hall and various people who had been in music for a very long time. And they said, well, this is what you need to do, Nancy. You need to have events, free events. And I'm like, well, if it's on Zoom, all I have to do is find a speaker. So I started having these panels, priceless answers from publishers. And, every other month or so. And that was an outreach and letting people know that we're all about helping people to know who these publishers are. Hey, if you know who these publishers are and what they focus on, you're no longer hunting around and wondering what this company does or what that company does. Now you've got a real source of information, and very much so that person. So, we just started in terms of inviting people in, having these meetings, and then we figured out, okay, at the end of this event, we'll take 3 people from our membership and we'll play a verse and a chorus of their song for these publishers. Now we're getting 3 people in front of them. I was like, so exciting. I mean, even just feedback, from publishers can go a long way. So that's what he started doing, having events.
Even though they were virtual in the beginning.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah. Life happens and you go, well, that's good. And then I found different situations happened to me because I had Discover Sooner. I got a call from a person, put their artist in Discover Sooner, and then emailed me and said, hey, I'm this artist manager and I've put my artist in Discover Sooner, and can you help me as an artist manager get a little bit more? I'm a new artist manager. I need someone who is been doing this for a long time to help round out what I know about artist management. So I became one of these people who refers to various people in the, in the professional community. So I send over a text to Neil Spielberg, who's a fantastic artist manager. And I says, hey, Neil, Crystal is new at this and she has Ben, her artist. Would you be able to give her some advice? And Neil came on board and just completely fell in love with Crystal and Ben, and he jumped on the team. And now Ben Fuller has a major record label deal and publishing deal with Provident. And I was like, okay, now we're really starting to cook here. Okay, that's what we're really here for, is to be able to help people get with the professionals that they need.
When you started this, was the growth of it what you anticipated or expected? The number of people that started joining, was it kind of a slow growth, or did it grow exponentially?
Yeah. Well, let's put it this way. The first thing I did was send this out to about 50 of my co-writers. Got my co-writers in it. Okay, I got some people in here, right? Yeah. And they were just so amazing because it's like, this is a beta version of this. Help me make this thing better. And then the events started to really widen out, our email list in a way. And free events are better for that than events where you charge money.
Right.
So I've grown it by that, and in social media. And I think, what I've learned about this, if you build it, it's not necessarily people are not going to come. This has been a giant learning experience about who wants what I have, what this company offers. It's given me, because of the pandemic, I got PPP loans that helped fund the company. And so things like that helped us, gave me this runway to just keep trying different things, pivoting until I started finding things that people really responded to. And you know when people don't respond to what you're doing because they don't sign up. And if you're talking about business here, you try it and nothing happens, almost nothing happens. Well, now you learn something.
Try something else.
Try something else.
Yeah.
So one day early on in Sooner, one of my friends and co-writers, I was sitting on my front steps and I got together with Leslie Bowe and we're on the phone and we went through all of the programs in Nashville and all the ways in which people meet publishers in Nashville. And there's paid events and there's free things, but mostly it's paid. And we looked at all of the features of those things and says, well, this one doesn't work for that reason. And this one doesn't work for that reason. What we really need is a program that helps a songwriter get in front of a publisher for more than just pitching a song. How about one in which a publisher mentors a songwriter for like 3 months? Even if it's a short amount of time, you're not just sitting down and meeting for 30 minutes and never seeing them again. You're sitting down and you're meeting this publisher and then you're meeting them again next month and then you're meeting them again next month. What if we did something like that? And so I created a program around that. It's called the Publisher Writer Experience. And we actually, are in the middle of our January program. And we have 2 great publishers from Warner Chappell, Christina Wiltshire and Will Overton. They're just awesome. And their goal with each one of these songwriters that they meet is just to treat them like they would treat the writers who are signed to their company. Everyone gets a 20-minute meeting, a one-on-one meeting, so that they are really looking at your music, giving you career advice. Every songwriter is always at a different place in their journey. So the publisher can, if they're more advanced, they can tell them X. If they're less advanced, they can tell them Y, and just edit their advice to people in a way that makes no sense.
Yeah, customize
it. That's what I kept thinking. And the other part of this is we, maybe had 25 people signed up, and you also get 3 co-writes with people who are at your level, right? Great co-writers for you to write with. So we've been doing this now for, since September of last year, and everyone loves it. The publishers love it. The publishers are telling me, this is great. I really get a chance to know these writers. And I know if that writer is for me or not after 3 times of seeing them or not. And the writers are like, yay, this is great. I'm getting great writers. And I have a real relationship with Courtney or Christina or Will. And some of the things that I was really hoping would happen, the holy grail for a writer who's unsigned is to have a publisher listen to their music and say, hey, you know what? I'd like to set you up with one of our writers. And that is happening for certain people, depending on where they're at. And I'm like, okay, this is what I was hoping would happen. It's not fair. It doesn't happen to everyone. But the fact is, I think each publisher really knows when they're sitting with the songwriter, if that writer has that it thing, that it factor that they need. Now, like it factor for Will might be different than the it factor for Christina, but they know what they feel like, oh, I want to champion this person within my organization. And so we're hoping some people get some champions within these, major publishing companies. And I'm super excited and proud of it. And I can't wait to see where it goes.
In the studio with us today here in Nashville, Tennessee, Nancy Decken, who is with Discover Sooner.
Hi, this is Dave Isaacs. They call me the guitar guru of Music Row, and you're listening to the business side of music.
You're listening to the business side of music.
As a musician, you have a dream, that vision of what success looks like for you. Though it's not only about the money, money is part of it. Whether you've been extremely successful or you're just striving to maintain a regular cash flow, you need a plan. Money Concepts can help you develop a customized plan to achieve the financial stability and success you want. For over 40 years, Money Concepts has been providing holistic financial planning services to individuals, families, and business owners. As an independent firm, Money Concepts and their associates are committed to always represent the best interest of the client. It's really about a committed, benevolent interest in them personally. This independence, coupled with that committed, benevolent interest, means they represent you, the client, not a product supplier. It's not about selling products, it's about helping you achieve success. To learn how this can benefit you, contact my buddy, John Adams with Money Concepts at 737-867-9309. That's 737-867-9309. You can also email John at jadams@moneyconcepts.com.
Are you curious about Gordon Lightfoot's songwriting process, or what it was like working with Prince in the 80s? Have you ever given any thought to what goes into a golf course design or writing a book? I'm Steve Waxman, the host of The Creationist, a podcast about people who create. Each episode features a different creator sharing stories that I hope will inspire your own creativity. The Creationist is available now on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
You're listening to the business side of music.
Back in the studio, Nancy Deckent is with us, who is the founder and CEO of Discover Sooner here in Nashville, Tennessee, which is a really different but yet very cool way for songwriters and publishers to get together. Mm-hmm. With that being said, I have a couple questions for you here.
Okay.
As a songwriter trying to get out there into publishing world,
Mm-hmm.
that publishing deal. If you are a heavy metal songwriter, you're writing death metal or punk or whatever it is, you shouldn't necessarily be pitching in Nashville. You really need to pitch where publishers are going to pay attention to you, right?
Yeah, it's not going to help you with the country publishers in town. But where we need you is in the world of sync. Every kind of music can go into TV and film. I mean, it is just that area of music licensing, which we just kind of shorthandedly call it sync.
Yeah.
Right? It uses every style of music. It doesn't really want any country.
And that has become big business in the last, I want to say few years, but last several years.
Yes.
Almost like it was previously overlooked. The labels did it because they had the catalog. But now that's where the publishers and the songwriters want their music to go, right?
Very much so. Like in the olden days, 10 years ago, they might have thought of it like, I want a hit worth $1 million or a $10,000 sync. Okay, I think I'll go for the hit, right? Well, there's lots of, in the TV show Nashville, and then they build that as country music in that show. And the publishers I talked to says, well, we've had like 5 or 6 placements in there, and those are all our B-list songs. Well, they were so amazing. The music in there was so amazing.
Yeah.
Which sounded like A-list any day. It didn't really sound like country what's played on the radio. It was such beautiful music, so amazing. So that what goes in TV and film and what is played behind scenes, whether it be a show that's about music like that or on Netflix on a daily basis, really has a different purpose. And there's so much of it because of Netflix and Disney and all these things. It is literally exploding in terms of opportunities, but it's the same problem, Bob. Then how do you get your music to the supervisor, right?
Yeah.
You just have the same old problem. And there are various ways you can do this. There are a couple of places online where every independent person who makes heavy metal, totally loved and adored by music supervisors. These online places are Songtrader, SONGTRADR.com. That's sort of like the daddy of them all. You could pitch your songs to their opportunities for free, and they give you a reference track. And then there's a division of how much money you get if you get the placement. Highly competitive. And then recently, my friend Bill O'Hanlon got a placement on MDIIO.com. Go check it out. But there's a lot of places where you can submit your song, not necessarily having to give your publishing away, right?
Right.
The world of sync is not about them maybe music supervisors don't want your publishing. they want this song and and it's a whole different kind of world and what's important. You have to know who your writers are, you have to know who your publishers are on this song. Everybody has to give permission that the song be used. And music supervisors want what they call a one-stop, where you can send it to one person and sign off on it. They don't want to have to wait to know if that song is usable or not. So anyway, this is a huge place for non-country music, people who make non-country music, Americana, singer-songwriter, pop. Oh, more pop music than any other kind of music. And hip-hop and rock, you name it. It's all there.
The songwriter who wants to write for, I'm going to use Kenny Chesney, Shane McAnally, who I worked with back in the label days, he wanted to write for Kenny. When you do something like you pick out a particular artist, and it doesn't have to be Kenny Chesney, maybe it's Garth Brooks or it's Faith Hill or it's Twisted Sister, whatever it is. Do you as a songwriter need to study that style of music if you're going to start wanting to pitch music to them? And it's a fine line, I think, between confidence and arrogance. You don't want to come across as arrogant, but if you come across confident and say, I've got this song and it would be perfect for you, fill in the blank artist name. Is that the way to do it? How do you go about writing that song that you just know is going to be perfect for that artist?
Well, we have all been there, right? We've all been there. I would say that, like Shane, I know this must have happened to him. He had this huge desire. God probably put it right into his heart. Given where Kenny Chesney was at the time when Shane McAnally showed up and decided beyond a shadow of a doubt that he was going to be a songwriter, because I know that was a big odyssey for him. Shane, I know, knew his Kenny Chesney's catalog. Shane would sit down to write a Kenny Chesney style song. Shane already knows like everything that he's already written, Kenny's already sung. So you don't want to write on top of a song that
why
song
repeat
idea.
something that's already been done?
Right. And also, you have to bring something to the party that somebody like Kenny Chesney can't necessarily do on his own. Kenny Chesney is a good writer, right? And he loves writing with Brett James and Shane McAnally still. And the reason he does that is because they bring something extra to the party that he doesn't have. But they're not backtracking over old ideas, that's for sure.
Yeah.
They're bringing in something new. So I think it's really essential if, country and hip hop and pop, they all have a culture in which they function. So if you want to be a really great pop writer, then you have to study the culture and the things that are said and the things that aren't said, the furniture in the song, right? Well, the furniture might be in a country song, it would be the truck, the girl, the feet on the dash. Oh my God, no, it was bro country. Like, we're all done with that. But then it became the heart and I can't breathe and, with the Lady Antebellum time. And, now we're into people like Brett Young and all of those folks who bring something new and the genre keeps changing. Like, and if you're back here in the 90s, which you have to kind of you have to take it to today's music and update it, with the things that are reminiscent of old plus the new, you got to blend it. So you really have to be a student of your genre. And
constantly learning.
Right. And every album that comes out, you might as well do this. Here's your homework, people. Well, every time an album comes out, you look to see who the writers were, right? How many, like on Blake Shelton, I know there is a chance for a song that Blake didn't write because 90% of the songs on his album are songs that he did not write.
Other songwriters.
Right. There are other songwriters. But like Darius Rucker, 90% of the songs that he sends out, he writes on. So unless you're writing with Darius, I tell you, you're going to have a hard time.
Yeah.
So pick your poison. Be careful who you might be in love with. And, Jason Aldean's a good one because he doesn't write that much. He used to write, and now he probably doesn't have so much time, but I'm sure he does sometimes. But that's a good person to go for. Blake is a good person to go for. But then you realize that these guys have been writing with Craig Wiseman. Where are you fitting? How are you going to get in that door? And I'm going to tell you how you're going to get in that door right now. If you think about it like this, like Michael Knox came to one of publisher group that I was in, and he said, look, Jason is going to write all of those, and his guys are going to write all those fun bar songs. I need deep songs from you. I need the stuff that Jason can't write. I need the meaningful stuff or the out-of-the-box stuff, because he's an artist at a point in his life where he can take some chances. So that's what I need from you people. And I think that is true for every major label artist. If they're just getting started out, that's a different thing. But if they've been around for quite a long time, then we got to dig deep and write something meaningful that can change the world in a lot of ways.
As a songwriter, getting out there, and I don't know if other markets, when I say other markets, Los Angeles, New York, Austin, etc., do it the way that we do it here in Nashville, which is these songwriter nights, writers in the round, guitar polls, whatever you want to call them. Is that a good place for the songwriter who's, we've just moved to Nashville. We have our guitar in our backpack and we've got once again, the dozen hits. Should you go to a songwriter's night with the expectation that you're just going to sit there maybe the first 2 or 3 or 6 times or maybe even more, just getting to know what everybody else is doing? Or should you expect that I want to get up on the stage and do it first night?
Oh, okay. Well, I think there are certain places where you go to get up there on the first night.
Okay.
Because you might as well jump in with both feet. And these would be like at the Commodore, the open mic rounds, wherever there's an open mic round later on, do it. Because then, and make sure you do it with a song that you're really proud of. And people have said, hey, man, not your mom and dad, but other songwriters have said that's a very strong song, because you want to get invited back to that writer's round. Okay. But you're not going to go over to the Whiskey Jam and do that.
Or the Bluebird.
Bluebird open mic, you can if you want to, because it's an open mic night. But I'd still wait till I had a song that people were at the other rounds were reacting to and said, oh, I love that.
Gotcha.
When you look out in the audience, if you had them or you lost them. So, make sure you're looking at the audience and tell, are people vibing on this? Because they'll look at you with intensity and they won't be talking. They won't be talking to their next door person sitting next to them. They'll be watching you. And so I would say, yes, jump in, go to the open mic rounds, and then find out your place from there.
Yeah. And then how deep should your catalog as that songwriter be when you go to these open mic nights? Because you really have the opportunity to do maybe 2, 3, possibly 4 songs. But should you have a pretty deep catalog knowing that, what these other 2 individuals just did up here takes away these songs. I better maybe try and do this one.
Yeah, okay. I wish more people would think like that, Bob. I really do. But, okay, so I would say always be prepared with at least 3 of your best songs. And take a hint from Craig Wiseman. He doesn't play any ballads when he's on stage because he knows everyone else is going to be playing ballads. So he plays his mids and his up tempos because people need that energy. And I'm one of those people, I really don't want to get that introspective on a ballad. I want to play something that's fun. And, you can't count on people singing along. But, if I am going to play a ballad, it's going to be, a meaningful song at the end. I'll do it at the end as my exit because there's emotional moments built into ballads that you can never get with a fast song. So choose wisely and do listen to what everyone else has done. If it's ballad after ballad, don't be dragged down that hole, honey. Come on. Yeah, give the listeners a break.
Yeah.
Because you'll be different.
Because you said it is an emotional experience. and don't do what everybody else is doing sometimes.
That's right.
You want to create your own audience.
And, you're really there to show you. And so figure out who you is and keep your eyes on your own paper.
I love that. Yeah. Last question I want to ask you, as a songwriter attending events, especially where publishers are at or industry experts, we have so many great events. And I know a lot of them were virtual and through Zoom for the last couple of years, but we're actually starting to get back out into the real world. Something we should be doing is attending these events.
Yeah, you're leading me in the right way. I mean, every person I've ever sent a song to was someone I met at an event and gave me permission to send it. And this is how it went. The first time I met them, I studied their faces in the Music Row magazine, Top 50, or the publishers or stuff like that. And in these magazines, I studied people's faces. So I knew who they were.
Yeah.
Okay. So I might go over and meet them. Say, hi, nice to meet you. Hey, I'm a songwriter, and I'll pick out something that recently at their company, they signed somebody. And I think, I love that guy's song, like I love Lee Bryce's, Rumors. Oh my gosh, you guys are killing it over there. Okay. Meet Nancy number 1, meet Nancy number 2. Oh, I heard something's going on over, at your place. Yeah, that's great. Oh, I'm so happy for you. Now the third time at the event. Hey, can I ask, I'm really wondering what style of songs that you're needing over there for Lee Bryce. Let's say I've been working on trying to get something to Lee Bryce.
Yeah.
Well, now they're going to talk to me because they know, I'm not goofy, that I'm in the business. You might be a songwriter but you're still in the business and you're trying it. Or you even say, man, he is my bucket list co-write. Someday I'm going to do it. Just find ways to connect with people. Find a nice way to let them know. Don't ask for anything until you've seen and talked to them 3 times. And people, at one point I leaned over to, Corey Crowder and said, hey, are you still looking for so-and-so? And he said, yeah. Is it okay if I send a song? Sure. Here's my email. I was like, if it was always going to be that easy, but it wasn't easy.
Yeah.
I knew where to be. I knew where to go. I showed up. I spent my time. This is how it works. And other ways don't work. Don't cold call anybody if you can absolutely help it. And if you're going to cold call somebody, kind of get somebody that they know to say, somebody said I should get in touch with you. That is very helpful. Brad Kennard and Tim Hunzy both said you need to go talk to Rusty. With that kind of a calling card,
yeah,
it was a shoo-in to go talk to Rusty. Rusty gave me an hour of his time, right? But if I didn't know Rusty, what would that mean to him?
Yeah.
Who are you?
That would have been courtesy and probably nothing more.
And I got, such meaningful information. So I say you just have to, you can't take anything for granted. And then there's always this question of, well, there's free things and there's paid things. The answer is yes. And it doesn't do as many free things as you can and do as many paid things as your pocketbook will allow you. Publishers don't care how you meet them. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter how you meet them or what you pay to get them. I'm not saying pay $1,000 for anybody, but what is affordable for you, you should do it because you are in the door. And when you're in the door, make sure you take your very best, because when you leave that room or that Zoom room or whatever, there's someone coming in next who's bringing their best. So don't think, oh, here's my work tape. No, take at least a guitar vocal that's been produced, right? Because you want to show your best.
You may not get that opportunity again.
Ever again.
Yeah.
And there is something to be said for not going too soon. You have to find champions in all stripes in this business, right? Like, they don't have to be the publisher to love the pieces out of you. Am I ready to go put my music in front of a publisher is a good question to ask of the right of people who are in the know. So you got to find those people. And it will be hard to get into the doors of ASCAP, BMI, and CSAC because there are 80,000 people in this town before pandemic, but coming every year to come visit as compared to 20 years ago when there were maybe 8,000. Now there's 80,000. They are probably not available. There's lots of groups like Discover Sooner, and there's Global Songwriters Connection with Cherise Voltori. There's NSAI. There's lots of organizations who have people who are in the know who can help you know if you're newer in songwriting. Don't go too soon. Be happy with not going. And on that, maybe we should stop. What do you think?
How do people find Discover Sooner?
Go to discoversooner.com.
Easy as that.
There you go.
Any kind of fee?
Our membership, it's a membership organization, and it is $13 a month.
Gotcha.
Or $120 a year. And for that $13 a month, you can pitch 6 free songs a year. You get a meeting immediately with me. I can give you any kind of publishing advice. We could talk about your career, whatever you need. And we have free events that you can attend. They're free to everybody. And then we do things that, like we're having a pitch to Sharon Clark is a song plugger, and she's joining me, and we are listening for songs from our membership for Jason Aldean and Lane Hardy next week. So we have these out of the blue, gifty kind of live pitch events, and there's nothing better than seeing, I've played my songs as a songwriter for publishers a lot. There's never better feedback than watching them listen to your song and then tell you where they get stuck or say, yeah, this is really good. Let me have your song. I mean, we're prepared to pick up songs that we feel like we can pitch. So we do things like this that are not going to cost you any more. And then we have some paid programs too.
Thank you so much for coming into the studio.
Thank you, Bob. It was a pleasure, and appreciate you having me.
The Business Side of Music is the creation of Tom Sabella and Tracy Snow and is produced by Bob Bender. The Business Side of Music is recorded at Music Dog Studios in Nashville, Tennessee. Production sound design by Keith Stark. Voiceover and promo by Lisa Busan.